Okay, we'll move on to item 8. We have a report from the Division of Boating and Waterways on their invasive aquatic weed control efforts. We do have Lynn Sadler here, Deputy Director of California State Parks and head of the Division of Boating and Waterways, and she will give us an update on the division's invasive aquatic weed control efforts for 2016. I had the privilege of meeting Lynn for the first time just prior to the meeting tonight, and for those of you who don't know Lynn, she's delightful, very personable, and I don't want to speak for you, Lynn, you can speak for yourself very well. It's nice to have someone who feels ownership and passion for the Delta, and I believe Lynn, in charge of this program, will serve us very well in this capacity. So Lynn, welcome, good evening, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm very much hoping...
Microphone?
I think we passed it this way.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Good. The pictures are going to come up. This will be very difficult to explain some of this without that. While we're doing that, I want to show you all my handbag. This seems a little bit strange to do, but I want you to know this is made out of water hyacinth. So just thought I would share that. It really is. How could I make that up? And I am going to read a little bit because I want to go quickly through this, but if you have any questions, I will take them at the end, and if you want to talk to me later, absolutely. I give out my cell number to you all, not the whole world, and take any questions that you have, any suggestions, and hope this is all two-way communication as soon as I finish here. So again, I'm Lynn Sadler, Deputy Director, California State Parks. I'm here to talk about a subject you've heard before, and sadly you will hear again. Water hyacinth has never been eradicated in moving water. We understand China has spent over $1 billion, that's with a B, trying to eradicate it. But we can control it and lessen its impact, and that's our goal. This is our subject area. Most of you know these first few pieces of information, but for the people that don't, I'm going to repeat them so that I make sure that we're all on the same page while we have this conversation. And there's no time today to talk about the southern side, so I'll just remind you that we have a southern part of the Delta that we deal with as well. And if you have questions about that, we can talk about that another time. We manage invasive species for three purposes: the environment, the economy, and public health. We work to balance those, but we do understand that people and endangered species are not negotiable. Federal law trumps us there, as they should. And so these are the species that we are working specifically to protect. And if you'll look around the table, you'll see the other species that we're working to protect with this. So we do have a few tools available to us, fortunately, and you see them here. We have the chance of chemical treatment, mechanical harvesting, biological controls, manual removal, and we include mapping as one of those tools. But I would also say that when we're through with whatever we're doing with eradication, we can't just pack up and go home. We still have to test for herbicide residues, salinity, dissolved oxygen, that sort of thing. So this is a year-round process regardless of what we're doing at that particular moment. But this, I think, is some pretty good news. If you look at last year, I think we did pretty well. That's the really tall column. That's the most treatment acres that we have done in the history of the program. And we've done a little better this year. We have, well, I realize it probably doesn't really mean anything to say we've done 412 acres or whatever it is we've done. I will just say that we've had some pretty good luck this year. If you could, thank you. But I would rather talk about why would next year be better. We do have new, more resources, growing partnerships, and some new and smarter approaches. But I want to be clear, the same rules apply. We still have to do biological opinion, concurrence with NOAA and NIMS and herbicide notices and water control notices. All of those same rules still apply. And yes, it does go on for 2 pages. The one thing that I think some people might not know, and I don't know if you can see it clearly here, but there's a blue line right here. We are not allowed to do any treatment, any spraying north of that blue line until June 1st. So that means that the hyacinth that's up there is not being sprayed until June 1st. That's one of the rules that we work with, and it does present its challenges because water does still run downhill. And here's some more rules that talks about which boundaries can we, well, the maximum number of acres we're allowed to spray is 3,500, and the maximum number of acres we're allowed to mechanically harvest is 2,040. As you know, the delta is just a little bit bigger than that, so we are restricted in the total. So we have to get a little smarter. Then we have a whole chart of rules of when we can use what herbicides. Some are a little more effective, but we can't use them all year round, and so we make choices based on the time of year. And now this is another thing that I think you may not know. I didn't know this. And you can't see the details, but that's not the important part. When we treat, we have to leave buffers. This buffer here is 100 feet wide approximately, and we cannot treat that. We have to leave living hyacinth there. And as you know, it spreads. So this is the way that you treat it in a slough. And this is the way that you treat it in a tidal site. So we have those additional restrictions that are on us for that. And now it's time to quit whining and just look at what we can do. Because there's a whole lot of what we can't. Let's talk about what we can. So this year we have 7 of 8 new field staff. We're getting 1 more. It isn't always easy to make the hires, but we're working on it. And we have 3 new environmental scientists. Those matter because they are required to be on site anytime we're treating. We have a new toxicologist. In fact, it's the only toxicologist in state parks. We have 4 new boats, 4 new trucks, and a 4-year harvesting contract. So we do have more resources this year, and that is thanks to some of you all who are in this room, so thank you. By the way, this is what a harvester looks like for those of you who are lucky enough to never have to know what they look like. With these additional resources, staff has the time to work more closely with a number of partners. We're joining more working groups. We're working more closely with other folks. With these growing partnerships, we have been rewarded for our behavior. We just got $300,000 from USDA to study cleaner treatment alternatives, because if something is less polluting in general, maybe we can treat more hyacinth area. We have a new California Conservation Corps contract to help augment our treatments. And we started a proactive outreach for Quagga grant awards, and I'm working with staff to take that same approach in being more proactive with the water hyacinth. The other thing I instituted just recently is a twice daily patrol of the Stockton waterfront, because that is one of our more difficult areas. The way the waterfront is built, it cannot flush, and sadly it really doesn't. If we go back one more. So if you'll see here, this is solid mat of water hyacinth. I want you to notice over here, there's not a solid mat. And what happened in that particular partnership, I want to point out that not all of our partnerships are just the scientists and government agencies. In this particular case, the way that played out is I met with the Stockton mayor, the city manager, county supervisors, Chamber of Commerce, and the business groups. I knew about the rubber ducky event. I knew it was at risk because of this hyacinth mat. And so I asked the city if they would consider turning on the aerators in hopes that that aeration might hold the hyacinth back. We don't know if it did, but it felt good to be working together. It was a good start. And then the business groups arranged for a boom to isolate and kind of hold back that hyacinth in an effort to keep this, this whole area as clean as possible. And even though, and I had to order overtime because we are shut off from harvesting at the end of last month, and that fell on a Saturday, so I ordered overtime so we could go right up to the very end, and then it proceeded to lightning, and we had 30-mile-an-hour winds, and we had to pull people off the water. But it was enough, and the event was saved. It was a little, not pretty, but, you know, it was a step in the right direction. We're also expanding our partnerships. We're struggling for spoil sites. Water hyacinth has to be laid out on the ground and dried. It goes from 4 feet to 18 inches in a few weeks, but it's a little smelly and it's big and messy in the meantime, and spoil sites are a problem to find. But this was a partnership done with Delta Meadows Park and the Lock community, and we worked with them. We tried very hard to be a good partner and set a good example so that other landowners who might have spoil site areas would want to work with us. And we feel like we were pretty successful. We helped this parks unit find new snake burrows that they didn't know about because of our environmental scientists assisting with that. We managed to get an abandoned sunken vessel out that was found as a result of doing this work, and we're now working with some NGOs and some rec districts to get more help. But this is still one of our biggest issues. We need a chain of these all down the delta. So when I get to the part, what can you do to help? That will be one of the conversations that we'll have. And we're also trying to work smarter. This is a satellite. It's actually a combination of several technologies. But we're working with NASA to identify areas where there's more than 50% coverage. Because we're suspecting those may be incubator nursery sites, that if we could work there, maybe the hyacinth would never get to Stockton, or the ageria would not spread wherever it thinks it wants to go. So speaking of ageria, is one of my very favorite maps in the whole world, because this is 2 years ago. Blue good, green bad. This is bad. This is now. So by working what we think is a little smarter, this is using hydroacoustic mapping, we feel that we've been pretty successful. And of course, we all know that all of this success can go away with one high tide, one warm day, one small, too little water, and a north wind. But we keep trying to move in the correct direction. Now this is an example of some of the other things we're doing. This was not NASA and fancy satellites or anything else. This was us getting up against the deadline for harvesting. As I said, we get shut off, and we did not get through to Snodgrass Slough, one of our goals. And so we looked at it, we looked at what are we going to do here, and we decided to just send the boat, slice it up right down the middle, and create a path, because we can keep spraying. And so by just something that simple, creating this path, we're now able to do more treatment than we have in the past. So the hope is that that 1.5 miles at Snodgrass Slough will at least be lessened, if not conquered. And I want to draw to your attention, can we go back just 1 second? Right here, this is not water hyacinth, and this is important. See all this green down here? What does nature abhor? A vacuum. When we clean one thing out and the ecosystem's not healthy, you get something else. Well, sadly, we don't have a vacuum, and we're getting something else. And this something else we're getting, next one please, is, it is sadly, it's primrose, and it's native. And it's highly invasive, even though it's native, which says that its normal balance has been disrupted. And that is a concern for us, because it forms a mat on top that doesn't give. You can't drive a boat through it and break it up. It just circles the boat. And under the water, it tangles like a ageria. So it creates both navigation and drowning risks. So we will be watching this. I'm putting this here because I want you to know that we have to be adaptive, we have to be nimble, we are often reactive. Even as we're planning for the future, water hyacinth moves. You get a good wind, you think, well, I'm going to go harvest over there today, and you get there, there's nothing there, it's moved over here. So we are working to remain as nimble as we possibly can, and if you go to our website, you can sign up for weekly notices that tell you where we're going to be. And I think that we have pretty good evidence these are useful because our complaint line, complaints on our complaint line dropped by 60% after this was put up. So I'm hoping they'll be useful to you. And finally, there's a lot of ways that you can be helpful. One, if you learn to recognize invasive plants, send us, if you don't know, send us a picture and where you are. Because as I said, they move around every day. You can help us by being our eyes and ears where we don't necessarily know about it. You can go to our website. You can report invasive aquatic plant problems. But then I think the most important thing that any of you could do is, remember those 2 pages of rules at the beginning? I mean, it's like this big, long process of things. That's about to begin again. We're starting a new process for a new biological opinion. That will be our rules for the next few years. You need to participate, if I may be so bold as to tell you what I think you should do. If this is all, if the only people who show up for this are interested in boating, then that's what it will reflect. If the only people who show up are interested in endangered species, that's what it will reflect. And remember, we work for 3 different reasons: public health, the environment, and if you can be there to represent your interests, it will help us be more creative. We won't be able to change and suddenly be allowed to kill endangered species. That's not how it's going to go. But when there's people at the table pushing back, that's when creativity happens, and that's when we find ways to solve these problems. So please pay attention to our website. Please, if you see something in the paper, check to see how you can participate in this process. And in fact, I will even invite you to contact me and ask and tell me how you would like us to communicate with you in this process, because that will make it the very best it can be and what is the most useful for everyone in the Delta, and that is our goal. So thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Is there a way, Lynn, we can get access to a copy of your slide presentation?
I will send it out.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. That would be great. And then on one of your slides, Lynn, you had your species slide. You had, the last one on there was VELB, VELB. Unless that's a typo or an acronym, I have no idea what a VELB is. Unless I was reading wrong, but I had none of that champagne earlier. Say, I got too many people.
It's Valley Elderberry Longhorn Beetle, VELB.
Valley Elderberry Longhorn Beetle. Okay.
It's a beetle that lives in
Lynn, we
elderberry
both learned
bushes.
something, right?
Yes, and there's also plants that we have to work around. Like if we're spraying and we come up on, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, I apologize. We have to stay within 100 feet away. So there are also plants that we are charged with protecting as well.
Well, there's no question you have a complex problem and not always the easiest solutions, but I want to thank you on behalf of local communities, and one you had up on a slide, the community I live in, Discovery Bay, for the heroic efforts, and it's been a stop, start, but I'm happy to see that the foot has not been released from the accelerator, and we're moving forward on a regular, consistent basis, at least over the last few years. And having had a strong approach for a few years and then it stopped overnight and then it restarted again was a little frustrating, but we're really happy the engine is back running and we are in gear going down that road. And I thank you for your leadership and your interest. On the dumping sites, I know there's at least one person in the South Delta, Rogine Reynolds, who is aware of and has connections on ability to take some of those spoils. and you and I can connect on that. But I'm sure there's people within our communities that we know would love to participate with you from the local level to help you, help us, and help the Delta. So we can talk more about that, how to network in that regard too.
Thank you. I will leave my card back here on the bar.
Okay.
Which I'd like to say I've never said those words before.
Welcome to the Delta Protection
You
Commission.
may get some calls you didn't expect to get. So.
And so please, any ideas you have on this, because we need them every few miles. Every mile that we have to travel to a spoil site is just time that is not spent harvesting or treating.
Right.
So.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Kate? Commissioner White?
I'm curious, maybe others know this already, but just why the time limitations on harvesting? I think you said June you have to stop.
Yes, it's to benefit the fish when they are. I actually am not sure which part of their life cycle this protects. I'll find that out. I'm not sure. Could be migration, but it could also be spawning. I don't actually know. I apologize.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Villegas?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I know just about a year and a half ago, your agency was struggling just to get attention to this issue and get some basic funding just to do some very minimal maintenance, and I think we've made some progress. I know it's tricky for a state agency to ask another state agency for help when you work for the same administration, but I would encourage us to identify what things we think as a Delta Protection Commission we can do to support some of the struggles that you're facing to continue to do the good work, because it sounds like you've made a lot of progress and we'd hate to see it slip back. So I think as a voice we should represent some of the things that we think we could continue to support, identify what those things may be, is bringing them back.
Thank you for that. And I do have two public speakers. I'll call up Anna Swenson from North Delta Cares. Anna, if you can go over with Lynn and share Lynn's microphone. And then following Anna, I have Melinda Terry. And we're using the microphone so we make sure the audio is in the record. Thank you.
Thank you. So my question was, the blue line that you showed on the map, where is that? Where is the proximity of that line? What legacy towns is it near?
That's a good question. It's below 12 quite a ways, and it goes at kind of an angle, so I would be hard-pressed to describe that for you, but I have my presentation right there, and I will pull the map out and show it to you if that's acceptable. Oh, here we go.
Can you zoom in, Nicole, maybe a little bit?
So you can see that it's right here. It's across and then goes.
Okay, we'll find out the answer to that question. Melinda? Anna, sorry.
Sorry. And the other thing is, North Delta Cares really encourages you to find other alternatives besides chemical application. We really are concerned about the water supply and the chemicals that are going into it, and we would love to assist you in any way to make that possible.
Thank you. We would like that as well. And as I said, we did get $300,000 from USDA to study alternative treatments, but that's just beginning, so we don't have answers for you yet. And my fervent hope is that we will have answers for you at the end of that study.
Yeah, and UC Davis is working heavily on alternatives to chemical treatment too, and that is an ongoing scientific effort, but there's a lot of attention on the issue, which is important. Melinda Terry.
Melinda Terry, California Central Valley Flood Control Association. First, I do want to commend the Department of Boating and Waterways. It is amazing the progress that has been made in the last couple of years. I also really want to commend them for partnering with the California Conservation Corps. We use them in flood fighting. They are fabulous, fabulous workers. There's both local and state, so that was really good to see. And you get a good army with those folks, so good for you. I did want to make the commissioners aware that we did have, from a reclamation levee maintenance standpoint, some concerns initially on the mechanical removing that was going on. Letters were sent to landowners about staging, the spoils, if you will, but the division didn't realize that really who controls those land, they don't own it, but they have the easement over it, which is the reclamation district. And so we did have to meet with them because there could be potential conflicts of when, because guess what, it's the same time that they're out there doing their projects and we might have trucks going by and what have you. At the same time, all of these have drainage and irrigation districts that it can become a problem, so they absolutely want to see this addressed. So we had a great meeting with the Department of Boating and Waterways and to really coordinate as much as we could with them to really help out identify locations, and we appreciated that. Thanks.
Thank you, Melinda. Any other questions or comments from the public? Any from the commission? Seeing none, Lynn, thank you again for joining us and for your efforts, and we will continue to ask. So you need to continue to let us know how we can help you. Thank you.